Sitecore now. I used to be on the partner side years ago. I get to work on a lot of different things, but this week my challenge has been, how do I get ready for an Ottawa area presentation on social media and privacy? That's been interesting. And I just today figured out how to do OBS and get my slides overlaying on top of my camera. So that was fun. I haven't gotten time to play with OBS much. So that was a good time.
Love OBS. Yeah, I'm using it religiously. Got it on right now. Any victories you want to kind of shout out before we end? Then actually what we'll do is the person who goes can just pick somebody, the next person. How about that? You pick anybody on your screen to go next. And if you want to just pass to the next person, that's fine. But you got to at least tell us who you are and what you brought you here. Okay.
Awesome.
Any victories, Jason, before you pick the next person?
Well, I mean, the OBS one, that was a big victory for me because I wasn't sure I was going to be smart enough to figure that out. But definitely one of the big victories I had this week is I look every quarter at how things are trending and kind of the community side of things. We've been seeing a lot of like downturn over the last couple of quarters, people kind of like not engaging as much. But I got to say, January to March, I don't know what's going on, but y'all are active. It's getting, we saw Sitecore Stack Exchange blowing up, major traffic, major posts, Slack, a whole bunch of new people coming in, NuGet downloads, NPM downloads going up, all kinds of stuff. It looked like everybody's getting excited about Sitecore right now, and that was good news for me to see. So that was a big win in my book.
All right, very nice. Who's going to go next?
I'm going to go with Eduardo, because Eduardo, we have not chatted in so long, and I want to hear what's going on with you.
Hey, Jason, it's good to hear from you, man. Yeah, as I was mentioning before, I'm now at Niche Tech, and I'm working with their American clients, but I'm still here in Canada, the good old Ottawa, and I love the Toronto user group. And recent when we just went live with migration from assets from Sitecore Media Library to Content Hub. Client is happy, so everything is smoothly going on there. So far, so good. And that's awesome. So yeah. Other than that, I'm trying to keep myself in shape by going out for biking and running, because you know the pandemic can get a hit on you. So yeah, that's it. And I will pick, I guess, Ben. Can you introduce yourself, Ben?
I can certainly try. My name is Ben. I am running the VR portion of tonight. I see two people in here. Well, 1.5. I guess 2.5 rather. I'm with a proficient up here in Canada, and looking forward to hearing the talk tonight. The headless stuff is something I'm really interested in seeing.
Nice, nice. And Ben, just for the folks who want to follow along on the VR, they can watch either Ben's screen, and if you want to post a new YouTube, I don't know if you're still pushing to YouTube, you can do that. Reminder, we're doing Sitecore Standup, so victories, announcers, introduce yourself, what you do, victories, challenges, announcements, and then you pick who goes next. So Ben, who's up?
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I don't know who went because I've been focused on setting up the stream.
Just you and Jason, bro.
Let's go with Thomas then.
All right.
Thomas, you're muted.
All right. Yeah, I'm on 2 different computers here. It's confusing in VR. So I'm Thomas Desmond. I'm a new technical evangelist at Sitecore. Speaking today on Next.js. So I've been doing a lot of fun stuff with Next.js recently. Been having some wins there and some victories and challenges there with Next.js. Yeah, prior to Sitecore, I was a front-end developer, not doing too much React and Next.js. So it's fun to be doing a lot of learning with that. And I'll pass it on to, let's see, Alex.
All right, thank you. Oh, it's good to be here. So my name is Alex. I'm with AmericanEagle.com out of Chicago. I'm a developer with them. Let's see, some challenges this week. Challenges this week have been with Sitecore 9, SXA, and Google Page Speed Insight scores. We're getting ready. Yeah, we're getting ready to go live with a project in a couple of weeks here, and the client caught wind of their Google Page Speed Insight scores. So we're doing whatever we can to try to get those up. Other than that, recent wins. Recently had a pretty good implementation with Content Hub, so got to learn a lot there. That was cool. And other than that, just
I'm loving every time I hear content.
Yeah, it was it was very cool. Other than that, just looking forward to hearing the topic tonight. I know we've got a couple of clients that are doing some stuff with Next.js and Headless, so seems like the direction everything's going. So it'd be cool to see more about it. Cool.
Yeah, for real. For real. Who's up next, brother? Alex?
I am gonna have to pick Sasha.
Oh, thanks, Alex.
welcome.
Yeah, so we work together at American Eagle. So yeah, I've been working with Sitecore.
I kind of got that with this.
Yeah, I've been doing Sitecore for like 5 years now. Victories. So yeah, passed the certification exam this morning. Really happy. Like, it's not that difficult of an exam, but it's really nice to check it off. And then one of my clients is doing an upgrade from 7.1 to 8.2, and it's been taking them like 3 years now to do it. And they might be going live this Friday, and so I'm very happy. I think that's a victory.
For real.
In terms of challenges, I don't know, too much work happening right now, I think. And yeah, no announcements from me. That's about it. I will pick Jeffrey to go next.
Hi, this is Jeffrey. This is first time join Meetup. I'm living here in Toronto. So recently, my client just upgrade from Sitecore 8 to Sitecore 9.3, and we're using React.js for the front end. And actually, is go live. I believe is on January this year, and is pretty good so far. So we try to move all the environment from the on-premise to Azure. So it's not 100% done yet, but we try very hard to get this done by May this year. Yeah.
Right. Well, good luck. We're rooting for you, and welcome to the user group, Jeff. It was nice to have you.
Thank you.
That's great. Yeah. So we've had Thomas, Jason, Ben, Sasha, Alex, and Jeffrey go. Victories, challenges, what do you do, who you are, and then you pick the next person. So Jeffrey, who's going to go next?
Thomas.
Had Thomas. Had all of those people I mentioned go. You got to pick all the other people. I should just mention the ones who are left, right? So I don't confuse people. I'm gonna do that next time. So Nick, Ozer, Mustafa, Prasad, Aaron.
How about Nick?
How about Nick? Nick, stand
about
up.
it. I'm Nick Wesselman. I'm the product manager for developer experience at Sitecore. And tonight I'll be presenting with Thomas on Next.js and showing how you can deploy a Sitecore Next.js app to Vercel. Lately, besides these user group presentations, I've been working with a couple different teams on Experience Edge for XM, which will be coming soon. I guess I can say, and that's it's a new challenge for us, doing a sort of effectively a SaaS publishing service on top of XM. But it's going well, and I can't wait to show you in the future how that will be able to work with our Next.js stuff. In terms of victories and announcements, with us here tonight actually is Justin Vogt, who started on Monday as a product manager at Sitecore. He's going to be working with me on developer experience. He'll be owning the Sitecore CLI as well as the formerly Hedgehog developer collection. And whatever other trouble we can get into together. So I'm excited to have Justin on board. He comes to us with 9 years of implementation and implementation leadership experience. So it's really nice to have that perspective on the team. So welcome, Justin.
Nick, you're stealing my thunder.
Oh, for sure.
I'm going to kick it over to you now.
Yeah, it seems like a good transition.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, Nick covered most of what I wanted to talk about. This is my first time in the Toronto user group. As Nick said, I'm on day 2 with Sitecore in my new role as a product manager. Prior to that, I worked at an agency, Horizontal Digital, doing a lot of stuff on the partner side and a lot of enterprise implementations and solutions, kind of managing and working with the dev teams there. I'm mostly here to get more involved in the community. While I was at my previous employer, I spent most of my time focused on clients and my internal teams, and now it's time for me to focus more on dev tools and find out what we can do at Sitecore to make your lives better and get more involved in the community. So thank you for welcoming into your group.
Yeah, and we're just like really appreciative every time anybody sees somebody from the mothership at one of the user groups. I think it's a great thing because this interaction really helps to make everything better. So thanks for staying engaged, Justin, and we're looking forward to great things from you as you work with Sitecore. So I think we have Mustafa, Prasad, Saqib, Praful, Ozar. We've got a lot of people left, so pick somebody next.
Yeah, I'd like to hear from Rao next. Hopefully I pronounced that right. And looks like that person might have dropped. How about Mark?
Hello, I just joined.
Mark.
What are we doing?
Hey, Mark.
Well, Mark, we're doing Sitecore Standup, which is you introduce yourself, who you are, what you do, and then you can say any victories or challenges or announcements you have, and then you pick who goes next. You're welcome to pass as well. That's how we're doing it. So
Cool. Yeah.
You're up for Sitecore Standup.
Awesome. So my name is Mark Jimenez. It's honestly been some time since I've worked in Sitecore. I worked with Sitecore on some really cool projects like at Petro-Canada and Toronto Pearson. I think that's it. Then I'll pass it on to whoever's next.
Pearson runs.
You can pick one. You have Mustafa. Pick Mustafa.
Sure. Yeah, Mustafa.
Good one. Mustafa.
Sorry, just
Mustafa, you there? No problem.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Just finding the Zoom. All right, so I'm Mustafa Hanafi. I'm a program manager with Conobos. I'm working with Dennis. I've been in the Sitecore world for the past about 6 years, I guess now. And I'm very interested to learn more about the headless CMS. We're making a good push with our clients in that direction. So I think it makes sense for me to know more about it. In terms of challenge for this week, I was actually supposed to be writing at least one blog this weekend. Unfortunately, couldn't. We have a lot going on the project management side at Conobos, and we're looking to share our knowledge with the community there. So I will get to writing very soon again. And sorry, who can I pick, Dennis?
Oh, Saqib, Praful, Ozar, Yusud, Rau, Aaron, Nihim, Jeffrey, and now Kariga.
Oh, Kariga's here. Hey, Kariga. I'll pick Saqib.
Thank you. Hello, this is my first time here as well. Good to be here. Yeah, I work with Logifig. It's a small shop here in Mississauga, Oakville area in Toronto. I have 2 clients with Sitecore right now. I've been with worked on Sitecore for a couple of years now. And the current challenge we're working on is migrating a client from 8.2 to 10.01 on Dockers, containers, Kubernetes. And hopefully in a couple of weeks, it will be a win. I will pick Ozair next.
All right.
Hello. Yeah.
Hey, listen.
So my name is So I've been working with Sitecore 2 years now. So right now I'm also working starting doing Sitecore 8 to 10 with in Docker and containers Kubernetes. Yeah. So hopefully we are excited to release it next week, couple of weeks to the product.
Right on. Very good, and welcome, Ozair. Good to see you here too. Who would go next? You have Prasad, Praful, Yusud, Rao, Aaron, so forth. I'm gonna ask for a volunteer from the names I just picked if Ozair's gonna stay on mute.
I'll go next. I'm Aaron.
All right, Aaron.
Okay. Yeah, I've been working at with Sitecore, sorry, since like 2012, so like 9 years. Right now I'm working with a company called Legrand. Their AV division runs a Sitecore site. Some big challenges this week trying to deal with. We managed to create ourselves a mess with about 200,000 items in Sitecore for various parts, and our Coveo indexes and Solar indexes started taking more than 24 hours to build. So we've been trying to sort that out. But hope is on the horizon. Been starting to dig around a little bit in Sitecore 10. I'm kind of new to the Sitecore user groups as well, so those are some victories.
Right. And if you guys hear any challenges, you know, and you know a thing or two about what's going on or would like to have a look, you know, hit the person up on Sitecore chat, hit them a private message here, tell them to reach out to you if that's your area, whatever. We just want to be helpful to each other here. Okay. Who's up, Aaron?
Haven't been following exactly, but
I can give you a few names.
Yeah,
It's Prasad, Praful, Yusuf. Yeah.
Prasad, go ahead.
Okay. You're on mute, Prasad, if you're talking. And we'll go next to Praful, perhaps. So that name's still on the screen. Actually, I think I just might have missed him. Or I might have got it wrong. Yusud. Is that name on the screen? Gariga, I know I see you, brother.
So, hey guys. So been working with Sitecore for about 7 years right now. Interesting projects just came on the team at Conabus, and they're killing me, but I'll be fine. Really cool guys to work with, Sitecore, work with implementations and stuff. So I'm just here to learn and to get excited about Sitecore.
All right. Yeah, we're not doing it on purpose. It's just a really tough project. We're not that bad. Who's next? Welcome, Elena. Just joined us a little while ago. And Vlad, I see you joined us. Anybody who just joined us, we're doing Sitecore Standup. And you just introduce yourself quickly, say who you are, what you do, and any challenges and victories that you have to share or announcements. We're going to get going with the presentation in just about 3 minutes at 6. So perhaps Elena or Vlad, whoever wants to go next, or Kariga, you can pick one if you like.
Oh, sure.
Sorry, you cut out. Let's see if Elena or Vlad want to jump up with their stand up before we either one of you, if you want to say hi.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm sorry, I'm dealing with my toddler here, so I just wanted to get him from a room, from the room initially. My name is Elena. I'm a Sitecore developer at EPAM Systems for about 4 years now, and I've recently almost completed my first JSS project, which was really interesting. I decided I want to learn more about it. It was just pure React thing, so it would be interesting for me to see how that compares with Next.js. What are the benefits of using maybe Next.js instead of just React, etc. That's it. Thank you.
Oh, okay, cool. How did you hear about the user group? Just curious.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I think someone on I think
Somewhere on the
probably Chris
internet.
Williams. We work with Chris Williams together in the same company, so I think he probably told me about it. I think that was the story. It was a while ago, so I wasn't sure.
Oh yeah, that totally makes sense. Yeah, that totally makes sense. Oh yes, right, Elaine. I'm sorry, I think I remember I mentioned before. Okay, we're going to actually, I think we're just about ready to start. There's a few of you who haven't gone in terms of stand-up, but we will have a little bit of time after the presentation. We're just about at 6 o'clock. In terms of just our announcements before we get going, we're going to have another session in late May. The exact date to be announced, but Ben, I believe you already have speaker and topic lined up. Is that correct?
Sorry.
You want to mention that now, or
I don't have it in front of me, and I can't access it at the moment with my streaming stuff. But yeah, we do have 2 speakers lined up for next month.
Okay, so next May, and in May, there'll be a couple dynamic speakers lined up. We're going to be doing these monthly at this cadence right now. We had a really great one last month hosted by Nabil, and we did Hacking Human Nature with Megan Jensen. That was really a great session. And tonight, we're going to be hearing from Nick Wesselman from Sitecore, who introduced himself, and Thomas Desmond. They've been on their virtual JSS world tour, heading next to New England and Germany, and so we're really honored to have them and some of the other folks from Sitecore here on the call with us today. So without anything further, I'll pass over to Nick and Thomas. We will start recording now.
Great.
And I'll just encourage everybody. You can, if you want to turn your screens on, show the people some love. It's totally optional, but encourage. I'm going to start recording. Okay, thank you.
All right. Well, yeah, thank you everyone for having me here today. It's really nice to be here and talk about Sitecore headless development with Next.js. So yeah, myself, Thomas, and Nick will be presenting today. So I kind of introduced myself already, but I can do it again. So Thomas Desmond, the newest JavaScript technical evangelist at Sitecore. So I just had 3 months. It was yesterday. So it's been about 3 months. I'm really happy to get up and running with these presentations. So a longtime front-end developer, full stack developer with a lot of AWS, IoT, C#, and front-end development experience. So I really am excited to be in this new technical evangelist role, where I can help everyone out and kind of become a front-end developer advocate for Sitecore and anyone that needs front-end help. And I'm located in San Diego, California. So it's been really nice to be able to do this world tour while staying in San Diego. If you want to reach out to me, I'm on Twitter at Thomas J. Desmond. I have a blog at thetombomb.com, and I'm on LinkedIn as well. And Nick, if you'd like to introduce yourself a little bit again.
Sure, a lot of familiar faces here. If you don't know me, I've been working with the platform for over 10 years now, maybe a dozen years. Combination of solution work, tech partner work, and now at the mothership. So I manage the our Headless SDKs as well as developer tooling now, as I mentioned earlier, with help from Justin Boat. And I'm in Asheville, North Carolina.
Great. So what we're going to cover today is Next.js in JSS, a bit about Jamstack, the benefits of Next.js, why we chose it, and then Nick will be giving a demo at the end. So first off, the Headless Rendering Suite version 16.0 comes with that Next.js support. If you're not familiar with JSS or the headless development, it's a way of delivering headless implementations with Sitecore. So the JSS package is for doing any JavaScript headless development. There's C# headless development with ASP.NET, and then there's the headless module that kind of is required for both of these. But what's exciting is that 16.0 was released with the 10.1 release, so in February. So the Headless Rendering Suite combines all of these technologies and lets you do those headless implementations with Sitecore. So what we're really interested in is that Next.js support in JSS 16.0. So it now supports Angular, React, Vue, as well as Next.js. So really most in all the major front-end frameworks are supported here. And there's this new package that is the Sitecore JSS Next.js, as well as a new sample app to help you get started and up and running with Next.js quickly. Along with that, there's kind of if you're familiar with JSS or you've used JSS or headless development with Sitecore before, there's a lot of familiar features there. So developer workflows, disconnected and connected, tracking analytics and personalization are available. And those are only with server-side rendering. That's what the SSR is. And I'm going to go a whole lot more into different rendering options of Next.js as we go through this presentation. And there's the inline content editing and preview with Experience Editor that you might be used to as well if you've done JSS development. A few more features of the Next.js SDK. Comes with a starter templates, help you get up and running quickly. Sitecore placeholder rendering, field helpers, Sitecore driven layouts and routes. So these aren't necessarily new to Next.js, but they are supported with that Next.js SDK, just like with many of the other SDKs. Component level data fetching. What you see is what you get editing experience inside of Experience Editor. So that's really nice that you're able to do all that editing inside of Experience Editor. You pass it on to marketers or pass it on to not as technical of people. And again, that analytics and personalization support with server-side rendering. So it's important to remember that server-side rendering aspect of for analytics and personalization at this time. One nice thing about Next.js is that really helps to simplify the JSS development because it comes with a lot of built-in features. It's built on top of React, so it has a lot more out-of-the-box features to help you get running with Next.js and JSS. One of those is the built-in production pre-rendering server. So the headless SSR proxy is not needed right now for production deployments. Next.js has a really cool preview mode for editor integration. This is actually a feature that was built by the Next.js team to let you be able to preview a lot of your content that you're using inside of Next.js. So this preview mode is really cool. And there are container-based options available. I know containers are really popular now with a lot of different people. So there is a container-based options available for Next.js with JSS. So now, why did we choose Next.js? There are tons of different frameworks out there. There's tons of different front-end frameworks to choose from, and we chose Next.js. Well, why? And really, the biggest reason was the need for speed. Everyone wants faster development, faster speed. So we found that Next.js was able to help us on both the implementation side and the delivery side. And the reason for that is Jamstack. Jamstack is an architecture that really lends itself to getting implementations done quickly and really helps out on that delivery side, getting fast delivery. So what is Jamstack? Jamstack is the combination of these three technologies of JavaScript, APIs, and markup. And now these aren't new things. JavaScript, APIs, markup, these have been around for a long time. So it's really just the way of combining these three technologies into an architecture that provides you Jamstack. So with JavaScript, it's that gives you the dynamic front-end functionality. APIs are what we would want to be using to get any third-party content, authentication, call out to database, and then markup is what is the what's going to be generated or what's going to be converted and generated into HTML files using a static site generator such as Next.js. So combining these three technologies gives us a new architectural approach. And with Jamstack, we can focus on pre-rendering, which is the idea of generating your assets at build time. So instead of doing the classic approach of that server-side rendering where your server handles each request, we're doing the rendering of our content actually at build time. And because we have that content created at build time, we are able to host that on the edge on a CDN. So it gives us fast delivery to the users. And using rehydration, using JavaScript on the front end, we can then create any dynamic user experiences that we want on the front end. So really the biggest piece that really stands out with Next.js and helps out with Jamstack is this pre-rendering, this idea of doing static site generation, building your content creating your content at build time, having those static assets that we can host on the edge on a CDN for fast delivery. And like I mentioned, Next is built on top of React. So if you're going to be using Next.js, you are dependent on React. But what's really interesting and how I've heard it described is that React is the engine for your car, and then Next.js is the car built on top of that engine. So you get this really fast engine, really fast React engine for you with this nice sporty car built around it with all the upgrades, with all the features that you want in this nice car. Because Next.js has a lot of those out-of-the-box features that really help you get started with JSS faster and also just help you develop faster. So I've mentioned a couple different these rendering options of server-side rendering and static site generation. Well, Next.js supports both. So you can do on a page level, you can create static content, and then on a different page, you can have entirely server-side rendered content. So you can try and get as much of your content statically generated, get it fast delivered to your users, and then some of the maybe more dynamic content, they're using that server-side rendering. Looking at a few more of the features, again, I want to reiterate that flexible delivery model, server-side rendering is possible, static site generation, as well as incremental static regeneration, which is a way of having static content that can incrementally regenerate to get the latest content required. It has internationalization support. Many enterprise companies are using Next.js, such as Netflix and Hulu. So these giant companies are using, with tons of content, are using Next.js successfully. I mentioned some of those things that it helps with to get you started with JSS quicker, has those out-of-the-box features. TypeScript support, image optimization, especially with your static content. If you're having statically generated content, the images are probably going to be the biggest piece of that content now. So it's really nice to have that built-in image optimization, error handling, component level CSS, easier debugging. Really just Next.js is this really awesome framework with a ton of great features built on top of it. So it's built on React, but then gives you all these features out of the box so that you can get up and running quickly. You don't have to kind of search around and create a lot of this feature support yourself. So Next.js just gives you out of the box readiness to just start developing. So it's pretty awesome. And reiterating again, the static site generation is really where the power of Next.js comes from. The static site generation is the idea of reducing or eliminating the processing of app rendering code at the time the user interacts with the page. So we want to get away from that traditional model where a user visits our website. At that time, the server responds, generates HTML, and sends that HTML directly to our user. In the static site generation model, we have generated the content at build time. So we have that static content that we've created. It's hosted on a CDN and delivered directly to the user. So there's no server processing that has to be done. We're directly sending that statically generated content out to our users. So we're getting that excellent performance and client-side stability with Next.js using static site generation. And you might think it's a little bit confusing of how this server-side rendering versus static site generation happens, but it really comes down to these three unique methods to Next.js. On the left-hand side is the server-side rendering method. If get server-side props is going to be on your page, then it's going to know that it's going to be doing server-side rendering, and it will get your data with each request. On the right-hand side, get static props and get static paths are static generation methods. So if your page has these two methods, it's going to do static generation and create that content at build time. So it really just comes down to these three methods that are unique to Next.js, but it helps determine if your page is server-side rendered or static site generation rendered. So it's really nice to be able to kind of, if you have one page that's going to be completely statically rendered, you can have that really nice speed, that really fast delivery on a CDN. On the server-side rendering side, if you just use that one method, Next.js is smart enough to know, hey, this is server-side rendered. Every time a user comes here, go and fetch the data with each request. So it's really easy to get started. These are all asynchronous methods. It's really fun to use these and get working with Next.js. It's a little bit of review here. Next.js, it's in 16.0, which is, so one of the requirements is being on Sitecore 10.1 to be using Next.js with JSS 16.0. Reason really we chose it is that need for speed. It has support for Jamstack development, giving you pre-rendering, fast delivery, and rehydration. And it does that through supporting static site generation as well as server-side rendering, all in one framework. And it's built on top of React to give you that really fast engine to kind of get you up and running. So again, my name is Thomas Desmond. I'm the latest and greatest technical evangelist at Sitecore. Really excited to give these presentations, meet everyone in the community, and it's been a lot of fun. And with that, I want to pass it on to Nick, who's going to give a demo of using Next.js with JSS.
Awesome, thanks, Thomas. So as I think was mentioned earlier, this is maybe the fourth or fifth one of these that we've done, and the recordings of our previous demos are getting out there on YouTube. So I thought maybe it's time to mix things up and start building on what we have been presenting. So if you want to see what it's like to get started with Next.js and JSS and see how to create what the developer experience is to create a new component, please check out one of these recordings on Discover Sitecore. We can share the link here in the chat as well. And that'll kind of give you the getting started experience. Today, though, I thought we would talk about the deployment experience, specifically with Vercel. Now, if you're not familiar, Vercel are the creators of Next.js. So Next.js is an open source project, and you can deploy it to any node supporting host. But Vercel does some very interesting things with Next. To get all the awesome runtime features of Next.js, you do need to run a Next.js server. Next.js is capable of doing just a pure static export that you could run on CDN, but you lose some of the features there. And so Vercel makes it very easy to run that Next server deployed directly from your Git repository, and then we'll push any statically generated content to their edge network, so you have the built-in CDN as well, along with a bunch of other great features that we'll take a look at here in a minute. But it is really easy to get started. In fact, I've already connected Vercel with my GitHub, and you can see right here on the Vercel homepage that I can just select this Git repository, and we're going to import it to my personal account. And so Vercel has now gone out and taken a look at my Git repository, and we can see, oh, this is a Sitecore JSS project. It actually has some Docker containers in it. Under source, we see we have some serialized items. We have a Visual Studio project for stuff that goes to Sitecore. But Vercel has identified that there is a Next.js project within here, what we call the rendering host. So this is the independently running Next.js application that's going to consume Sitecore headless services like the layout service and GraphQL. in order to allow us to render in a headless, or maybe more accurately, you would say decoupled way from the Sitecore platform. So let's import that. And we'll keep the repository name. Vercel's already picked up that it's a Next.js solution. We can keep the default build and output settings. We do have some environment variables we need to configure, however. So, and if we go out to the JSS documentation, it will tell us exactly what these are. And so these include things like our API key and API host, which are standard things, standard values when you're working headlessly with Sitecore. We have an editing secret, which is for communicating with the experience editor. We also have a public URL. And this, to be honest, is a bit of a bummer because Vercel, the URL can be so dynamic. They give us all these preview URLs. We don't want to hard code that. So we have a change that will likely be coming to this documentation where instead of using a hard-coded or rather a static environment variable for that, Vercel gives us a URL we can use automatically in the environment to configure our Next.js application as to what host name it's running on. So I already have that in place. So let's go ahead and configure the other values. The first will be our API key. And we can grab that from our JSS configuration. And this is just it's almost like a configuration ID that gets passed when we invoke Sitecore headless services. And then next is our API host. And normally this would be something like an AKS cluster or a PaaS instance, but I'm cheating today. I'm running locally and I've set up ngrok, which creates a tunnel to my local instance. So I can grab that URL and make sure I don't have any leading spaces here. And finally, we have that editing secret. So the way the experience editor integration works with Next.js is actually an HTTP post to a remote environment. So we want to make sure that that connection is secure. And so for that, we have this token, this editing token or secret. So all those in place, and now I can just click deploy. And so Vercel is going to grab my Git repository, grab the latest commit from my main branch, and let's go ahead and keep that over there and take a look at our solution while this builds. So Thomas was mentioning the various route methods you can implement in Next.js in order to implement server-side or static site generation. And here in our sample solution, we have what's called a catch-all route in Next.js. And what this is means is that for any path that doesn't match a page or route in my Next.js solution, Next is going to invoke this. And so, and we see here in our catch-all route, we've implemented get static paths and get static props. So this means that Next will attempt to statically generate this for us, and the URLs it will statically generate are provided by get static paths, and then the data for that is provided by get static props. And the basic flow for that is either a server-side rendered URL or get static paths URL is invoked through those methods. And ultimately, the path that's passed through that results in a call to the Sitecore layout service. And the Sitecore layout service tells us what components are going to be on a given page. And so now we can see Next build is generating the static pages and giving us some idea on the routes that were output In addition, Vercel is actually going to take our Next.js application and effectively break it apart and turn it into a bunch of serverless functions. So to me, that's really powerful about Vercel, is that I can work effectively monolithically locally in what seems like one application. But then Vercel is going to break it up into all these independently scalable serverless functions, as well as static content that's deployed to CDN. So, and here we go. I have a production JSS application hosted by Vercel. So now we have a live site. Let's see how we can edit it. We want to be able to open this in the experience editor as well. So jumping into Visual Studio, I've actually pre-configured this. And this is here's my Sitecore site definition. And alongside that is what we call a JSS app definition. And one of the things I can configure here is what's called the rendering engine endpoint. And this tells our extensions to the experience editor where it can go to get markup for a given Sitecore item. Additionally, there's some HTML processing that happens after that, some link processing. So we need to make sure that we know the public URL for this app as well. These host names can be different, especially if you're working with containers, but since this app is publicly available, the host names are the same. So since that's pre-configured, I should be able to jump to the content editor here and pop it open in the experience editor. And here we have it running, and I can start making some changes just to see this working in action though. If I go to my serverless function logs in Vercel and then refresh my experience editor view, you can actually see that my local Sitecore instance is posting to this Vercel instance with that editing secret in order to get the rendered markup. So we can see this is actually communicating with my production Vercel instance. So let's make some content changes here and save and publish. Now, this is a statically generated site, right? I mean, we saw that that build log where it was statically generating. So how do we, so this content update isn't going to show live, right? Or will it? One refresh. No, and we got it, I think, on what should have been a second refresh there. Oh, you know what? Wrong instance. That's why it was immediate. Sorry. All right, one refresh, no change. Second refresh, it's there though. So how is that possible in a statically rendered, a statically generated application? And this is where some of the hybrid rendering magic of Next.js comes into play. You can see here I've configured on this route a revalidate value. And what this means is that Next is going to do what you might call stale while revalidate. It's always going to serve its current version, currently statically rendered version of this route, but at most every 5 seconds, when a request comes in, it's going to go and revalidate that value. So, and if something has changed, then it will update its statically rendered version of that page, and the next person who requests will get that new version, that revalidated version. So you get the page performance benefits of static generation, but maybe some of the runtime benefits of server-side rendering, because we have that Next.js runtime. Similarly, if I go ahead and add a new route, you would again think, well, don't you need to regenerate or rebuild your site in order to get that new page live? And not much to see, but this is the page we just created. And Next.js has sort of generated it at runtime for us instead of at build time. And this is through what's called fallback on my get static paths. So this tells Next.js, if you don't have a pre-generated version of this route, go ahead and see if one is available. So this means you only need to generate a subset of your paths or routes at build time, and any new routes can then be available without having to do a full rebuild. So the combination of these two features is referred to as incremental static regeneration. And it's one of the reasons why we chose Next.js when we were looking for a good Jamstack option for JSS. Now, you most definitely can do build time generation when content changes, and you may have reasons to do that. The stale while revalidate approach does result in some in potentially serving stale content. So Vercel does provide the ability to create deploy hooks. So I can create this deploy hook here against my main branch. And this gives me a URL I can invoke in order to trigger a rebuild for new content. And in Headless Services 16.0, we also introduced the ability to configure on publish and webhooks. And so with a configuration patch, you can plug in that Vercel URL, and every time a Sitecore publish happens, your Vercel site would redeploy as well. In the interest of time, we'll skip that for now, because I would still like to show you the ability to preview code changes in Next.js. And this is another powerful feature of Vercel that allows you to for any new branches pushed to your GitHub repository, you will actually get a preview URL that you can share with others in order to see your changes immediately. And you can actually plug that URL into the experience editor as well, if you like. So I've created my new branch here, and let's take a look at this guy running locally once again. So, and I am going to just do some awesome CSS work here. Let's say add some bootstrap classes. Let's add a background and add a border. And we're going to make that border dangerous and rounded. There we go. Amazing, right? Marketing is going to love it. Now, I can commit this, made it better. I'm CSS in. And let's push this branch. And now back in Vercel, if I look at my app, I have my production deployment still, and then under preview deployments, we see that we have a new build running. While this runs and we wrap up, I do want to encourage y'all to watch that that getting started video, or just go out to jss.sitecore.com yourself, and we have a couple different getting started walkthroughs where you can try Next.js yourself, either with Sitecore containers or with the sort of classic mock Sitecore disconnected mode. So how are we doing here? We are still building. Worth plugging as well that we have the forthcoming Experience Edge for XM, in which case you will be able to run these builds and trigger webhooks directly off of our cloud GraphQL service that we will manage and scale for you. And here we go. I have this deployment complete. And if you look at the domains, you'll see it actually creates a domain form, a subdomain for me based on my GitHub branch. And then obviously now I can send this to marketing. They're going to say, great job, Nick, you do CSS really well. And then they will, and then I can do a PR to main. And when it merges into main, I'll get a new production build. So it's a really great way to do continuous delivery of your front end with a Sitecore headless development. So thanks, y'all. Hope you enjoyed this little look into Vercel and Next.js.
Very nice, gentlemen. I really enjoyed that. That is, like Karika commented in the chat as you showed the live content update from Experience, it's pure magic, and I gotta say that's pretty cool. We're going to open the floors to questions for Nick and Thomas. We'll also give them, if there's anything that you guys wanted to touch that you did not have the time to, and you run out of some questions, you're fully welcome to do that. We'll go to just about 7. But when you said, Nick, you said decoupled was more accurate than headless for your purpose of your demo. You want to kind of just drill down into why you said that for us, and I'll encourage anybody else to just pipe in with your questions. You can either put your hand up or just go right off of mute and ask your questions afterwards as well.
Sure. I mean, I'd say we get a lot of feedback on JSS that it's sort of not pure headless. And that's because we do have a client SDK. It's not like you can just take a GraphQL endpoint from us and plug it into any framework if you want to achieve the full value of the platform. And that really comes down to the layout service and the fact that it's giving you this big JSON tree of all the components on the page. So the actual Sitecore renderings and what placeholders they go in. So we need something on the client, an SDK that can interpret that and dynamically instantiate the components for you. So because we have a client SDK, I'd say technically it's more accurate to say decoupled rendering, but colloquially, we obviously still call it headless and in the product name.
Okay, gotcha. That seems to make sense. Any more questions from the floor? Anybody want to jump in? I see Nabil, you got a question.
I have a question. Thank you, Nick and Thomas. This is amazing. Question about if you deploy to Netlify versus Vercel, what features you would be losing from what you presented?
So it's my understanding that Netlify, while it supports a lot of Next.js, it can do this, it has the same functionality where it breaks things up into serverless functions and so on, that it doesn't actually support incremental static generation, that effectively on Netlify, you fall back to server-side rendering if you've configured incremental generation.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Netlify may have solved that, but that's last I looked, that was the status.
Very nice. And I'm just kind of going on that. You had mentioned Experience Edge for XM, and there's this thing is running on Vercel. Why would I make a choice for one versus the other? Experience Edge XM running this on Vercel and Netlify.
So they're actually very different things. So just I think maybe we need to do a better job communicating what Experience Edge is going to be for XM, and it's effectively a cloud API layer that you publish into. So when you publish from XM to Experience Edge, you'll get a GraphQL service that is effectively a static snapshot of your content and layout. So you still need to put a head on top of that. It's basically a replacement, a runtime replacement for headless services. So the two would actually complement each other very well. Theoretically, using Experience Edge for XM and Vercel with Next.js, you would not even need a CD server in your Sitecore infrastructure. You could just publish right from CM to Experience Edge and do rendering from Next and Vercel.
Great. Thank you for that clarification. Yep. Really appreciate that. Hadipo, you had a question. Do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, can you hear?
Yes.
I just would like to know, I never worked with JSS and this kind of stuff, so just would like to know if it's still working with analytics and marketing stuff, it's still doing the same thing and getting all the information about the user that are navigation.
Yeah, so as Thomas mentioned in his slides, to get analytics and personalization support today, you do still need to use server-side rendering. But if you do use that get server-side props option of Next.js directly against a Sitecore CD server, then we do similar things to what JSS does today in terms of proxying headers and cookies in order to get analytics and personalization support. We are actively looking at how we can support client-side analytics and personalization in a future release, so you can get that. You'll be able to get that with static generation as well. What we just got right here, but not today. Today you would have to use server-side rendering to get that.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Yep.
So Nick, you mentioned that the GraphQL or the Experience Edge for XM is going to replace CD. Does that mean like it's going to also replace the headless services? Like you don't need JSS framework?
You still need it for preview and development. So you still, plus, because it's a static snapshot, effectively what the Experience Edge publishing will do is run your layout service on CM, take its JSON and put it on Experience Edge for you. So you still have all that running on CM.
Right. So in order to do the experience editor, WYSIWYG, component or page design or page builder per se, you still need the JSS, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Very nice.
So I have a
Yes. And I
question.
really enjoyed that. Go ahead. Sorry, who's that?
Oh, sorry, this is Sakib. I had a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
In some cases, a client might need a walled approach where all of their infrastructure is in a particular cloud, for example, Azure itself or AWS or have you.
Yep.
And without having access to Vercel or Netlify, how does it work, and what do we lose?
Sure. So you have a couple options there. I think we already have people live on Next.js using Azure Static Web Apps. In that case, you're not using the Next.js runtime. You're using what's called a Next export, which is a static HTML and JSON export of your site that's all done at build time. So there's no runtime Next.js in that case.
Okay, in that case, if there is a change and any author makes a change, it has to be kind of scheduled with a new build.
Exactly. So you lose the incremental generation, as you allude to there. You lose some other features in Next.js, but it's a good option for some sites. Your other option is just running the Next server yourself as a Azure web app would also be an option. But then you're obviously needing to scale that, manage and to a degree scale that yourself.
Well, thank you.
In a meeting.
Yes. Were you having a question, Andy? Just clarity. I think, okay, put it back
No,
on you.
just having to let someone know that I'm not
All
available
right.
for a question.
Okay, no problem. Ben, in VR land, you had a question over there coming to us straight from the big screen.
Yeah. So that was awesome, by the way. But I got a question. I noticed like one of the biggest bits of feedback I hear from all of my clients is Experience Editor is not always the fastest thing in the world. But I noticed in your demo, especially on XP, but I noticed in your demo it was actually zipping along pretty quickly. Is that just kind of a does the Next.js and all that sort of static site stuff give performance boost to Experience Editor?
Good question. It could be that the rendering itself is faster compared to maybe like certain SXA sites or something like that. That could be part of what you're seeing. I also wasn't doing anything that complicated. I was just making some content changes, I didn't try to add a component or anything like that. and I'm also running 10.1, where I know we've made between 10.0 and 10.1, we've made a lot of performance improvements. So it could be some combination of those, but I can tell you I'm very much looking forward to Horizon from a development perspective, because even there, your dev cycles are going to be much faster because the interface itself is faster. So hoping in a soon release to have Horizon support for JSS and ASP.NET Core as well.
That'll be awesome. Yeah, admittedly, most of the projects I've been on recently have been Sitecore 9.3 SXA, so that could also be part of it.
Yeah. So this soon, is it 10.2 or we don't know, or we shouldn't know, or?
I don't know yet. I'll hopefully know soon.
Okay.
Yes. Well, so let me ask for any more questions from the floor. Anybody else have a question? I've got one if you don't. I've been kind of relegated to, now that I'm outclassed by all these developers, I'm relegated to marketing and business strategy. So, for all of the marketers out there, like they're hearing all this hype about Headless and so forth, what's the advantage for them? Why should they kind of want to even bother to entertain a project to make like a transition perhaps? What's an advantage for marketers?
You want to take one, Thomas? You have a good answer there?
Yeah, what's the advantage for marketers with Headless?
Yeah. I mean, like, why would I, if a lot of times the checks are being written by the marketing department for a redesign and rework, why would they want to kind of make that shift? Is there any advantage for a marketing department?
Yeah, so I think a lot of it is that your developers can focus on that front-end technology, that UI that they want to focus on, that they can build out with. And then especially with Experience Editor, your marketers can go your marketers can go into Experience Editor, create their content there, and have that more friendly marketing experience rather than jumping into the code, jumping into something that maybe your developers are working on. So Headless gives you just kind of your developers the options, and you maybe a familiar environment that you're used to.
Right. I mean, I tried really hard to pay attention to everything you said, but Elena's baby is really distracting me. It's just so cute. This is over so well. Hey. You want to give your Sitecore stand-up? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. It's his first stand-up.
Yeah. We believe in child labor here. Don't worry, you'll be coding sometime soon. He's probably going to do better than me. Don't worry.
So if I may add to that as well, the performance and SEO benefit of Headless is definitely worthwhile. You're considering Headless, especially with the core vital signs or web vitals that Google's going to kick off or kick in May. So that's definitely one. And also hosting cost, I believe it would be cheaper to host the head and potentially eliminate CD in some of these scenarios, right? With Experience Edge, that would be like a scaling performance as well, hosting and performance benefits, I would say.
Yeah, so especially for those people who have globally distributed organizations and they need all of that stuff, that's going to be a huge advantage. And Nabil, yeah, the point about Google and this, because that stuff was fast and it's lickety split. I know that was pretty simple, but I've seen some other ones and it's quite impressive compared to our traditional approaches. The speed. Yeah.
I'd add agility as well to the list. I mean, for example, especially with some tools like Netlify and Vercel, where if a marketer has that front-end developer integrated into their team who can make these changes and push it to a branch and send it for review immediately to the marketing team and then merge to master, and you can get into more of this continuous deployment flow, especially with the front end.
Right on. Yeah, you just get in the deal.
Yeah, I mean, like particularly around the thing that you demoed, Nick, how you can make a change and then host it on a URL temporarily, to preview and then approve it and publish it. It's just fascinating. A lot of agility there.
Yeah, so faster iteration, get the site up there, make changes. You don't need like a whole drawn out project to make simple changes, right? Just get the stuff right out there. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. The other thing is like the availability of the JavaScript or like Next and React developers. It's way more available than Sitecore developers, right? And
is it?
Really?
I'm starting to hear the opposite from partners about React developers, but it probably depends on market.
Yeah, I mean that's my experience anyway. But I mean, maybe Sitecore developers are have been increasing in numbers. And,
well, I'd say I guess
while,
versus .NET developers maybe.
Right. Yeah.
I had a follow-up question. Sorry if I interrupted.
No, please.
Oh, thank you. I've not worked with JSS, so keeping that in mind, if you already have an application that is, let's say, MVC-based components and SXA-based application, and if you have to migrate it to Next.js, make it compatible or what have you, is there a migration path there, or are we looking at a rewrite?
It's effectively a rewrite in terms of the front end. You can make use of maybe some of your Sitecore templates and content and so on, but you're taking what were MVC components and migrating them to React. Now, Next does have a very nice feature around this that I can find quickly.
Are you referring to the Next.js, like the rewrites?
Yeah. So Next.js has some, let's see here.
Probably routing.
Yep. Migrating incremental adoption of Next.js. There we go. So what you can effectively do is use the Next server as a reverse proxy and incrementally rewrite particular paths of your site to Next.js while redirecting the rest still back to your Sitecore CD, for example. And so by doing that, you don't have to do a full rewrite up front. You can kind of slow roll the migration.
I guess kind of answers my next question, which was basically if we cannot do a full rewrite, can we adapt, for the future next set of catalog of components using Next.js? Basically, can we have a SXA with the traditional sites living side by side with a stack of Next.js-based application sites?
Yes, definitely. So you have separate tenants because in SXA it would be the JSS tenant side by side with your existing tenant. But then you could use Next.js to do it. You could actually just as easily use something like Azure Front Door as well to basically sort of section by section on your site migrate to Next.js. It has to be done on a page or site section basis versus a component basis, which may mean that for some period of time you'd have implementations of, say, like your header and footer in both MVC and React.
Okay.
Because
So basically
no two components can, like Next.js components cannot coexist on the same main layout with MVC, right? Like that's the reason.
There are some tricks with the layout service to render MVC components as HTML and then include that in the page, but it gets a little hacky.
Yeah.
Yeah, the use case basically is that if you have a client that already has a stack of components and applications and sites, and we want to migrate them towards, or they want the ability to have, static site capability as well.
Yeah.
What's a path like? And you want to maintain the old stuff too. If you cannot really, there's no easy migration path.
Well, we have a partner that can help you with that too, and that's Uniform.
Yeah.
So, and they are a partner, and that's and their personalization could work with our Next.js stuff today, and their static generation of MVC sites is definitely an interesting solution if it meets your requirements.
Cool. Thank you.
Very nice.
So,
great questions.
Yeah, I mean, the static site generation that Uniform does, it's basically getting the out service and all the information, the content, and generates a Next.js components basically on the static side, right?
They actually have their own service, as I understand. It's not the layout service, and they're actually pulling on a component basis. They're pulling markup from Sitecore, and then using Next.js as kind of a wrapper to generate off that Sitecore generated markup. And then on a component basis, if you want, you can re-implement in React, but I'm not sure what the specific limitations are if you do that.
Yeah, I love the fact that, that there are ways for us to get there, as you say, like to slow roll it and get there gradually as well. So it doesn't have to be that you have to embark on a huge remake to be able to get there over time. And that incremental approach makes a lot of sense, for sure. But about 7 minutes left in our time. If we have any more questions for Nick and Thomas, comments? I'm just I guess we'll call the question parts there. Anything that you did not have time to show or wanted to touch on, Nick, in your time?
I'm surprised no one asked about Content Hub headless compared to this.
Well,
right. We actually had a question there, but
that is because it seems to be that's a pretty big thing that's happening.
Yep.
And I'm sorry, no, you said the word. I have to do this because I said anytime somebody said that word, I have to do that thing because no shade, but it's like my favorite Sitecore product right now. So
glad you enjoy it.
Yeah. So is it like is this thing, how's that going to kind of play against each other? Or is there like a priority at Sitecore for these things, or?
No, I mean, I think they serve different markets and different needs in a lot of ways because we talked earlier about the difference between headless and decoupled, and what you're doing with Content Hub and Experience Edge for Content Hub is more of the true headless API first approach. You don't have to use Next.js with that. You can plug in Gatsby, you can plug in Scully, you can do a Svelte site off of it. You can bring your own framework. And that has a lot of advantages, and that's what some organizations are looking for. That's their requirement. On the other hand, there's no page composition, right? You are entirely dependent on your development team to decide what components exist on a given page or route. And there's no WYSIWYG editing. So that to me is the differentiator. Do you want page composition, and are you willing to take the technical constraints that come with that? You have to use Next.js or ASP.NET Core or some of our other JSS frameworks. Or do you want that sort of true headless architecture? And so that to me is the differentiator between the two. And I think we have customers and prospects that where each is a valid use case.
Yeah, that's an interesting. Go ahead, Nabil. Sorry.
No, sorry. I mean, there's also the third case where I've seen Content Hub used as a everything content and content management, and then it's connected to XP with the connector to sync content one way, and then they can use the XP for just page composition and personalization and all the marketing features.
Yep.
Because that's the other thing you lose with the Experience Edge on Content Hub, right? There's no personalization, there's no forms, there's no identity provider. Well, I mean, there is, but not for distributed applications.
Yeah, there's definitely hybrid scenarios, either using the Content Hub connector to bring stuff right into XM and publish it from there. But I really look forward to seeing what people can do using Experience Edge for Content Hub and XM together as well, because then you can do runtime queries against Content Hub, and maybe you have in your Next.js app certain routes that are driven directly from Content Hub, and you have certain routes that are driven from XM, and then you're using Boxever on top of it all to personalize, and 451 to do commerce. So I think there's good stuff coming.
Yeah, and actually that was the that was exactly what I was going to should be talking about, the scenario where you're putting both of them in play. Seems to be like a nice combo. If well, I mean, you have to have the pockets for it, but for these, you know, for a situation that can support it, then you're getting all of the content workflow and everything else that you get a content hub, pushing possibly to various channels. You have your page composition, like you mentioned. That seems to be like the dream suite if you can manage it, for sure.
Right. I have one last question before we wrap up. I think we have this only 3 minutes. So Next.js support for JSS versus the existing React, Vue, and Angular. You know, what is the difference in terms of possibilities?
Sure. So at this point, I'd say there's roughly, in terms of the platform, feature parity between React and Next.js. Obviously, then Next.js brings a lot of its own additional features. I think our focus is going to continue to be on React and Next.js. Right now, you're missing some things like Sitecore Forms support in Angular and Vue. Just given our ability wanting to be able to do things well, we're focusing on React at the moment. But I would say compared to those existing frameworks, as Thomas mentioned earlier, the development and solution setup with Next.js is just way simpler. You aren't having to deploy your JavaScript bundles to 3 different places and have a different production setup than experience editor setup than development setup. It's all just one mode, if you will, not these 4 different modes. And just the amount of boilerplate code, even to start with, is way less. So we're definitely trying to encourage people, if you're starting a new JSS project, we really think Next.js is where it's at right now.
Yeah, very nice. It's been really nice to feel that the power of the power of React, and have the massive number of packages, massive number of the support out there, but then get Next.js to really give you that starting feed to get you up and running really quickly by choosing Next.js. So I've been having a lot of fun with starting with Next.js and getting a lot of the the boilerplate features out of the way. Yeah.
Great.
So I mean, that's I think that's a big takeaway. You start that JSS project. Next is the way. Next is next. No, next is now. Yeah, that's the thing. That's the new hashtag. Next is now. All right, so we're going to call it here. We're at 7 o'clock. Next month, you look for some announcements. Mr. Ben over here is going to be hosting. We're going to have a little bit of a setup about 15 minutes prior. Some of us are going to try to be in that big screen VR room, get our VR sub going. I want to thank again Nick and Thomas. Nick, that went fine. That demo, yeah, it looks like you'd run it 1,000,000 times. It went perfectly fine. So thank you for just stepping up and doing something fresh and new with us. It was very impressive. Got some applause coming from the audience. And we'll see you next month. Look out on Twitter. Ben, myself, Nabil, any of the organizers can follow us up there, and you'll keep abreast of what's going on, and sign up at the meetup group to keep up. If you have something that you want to present, just ping us, and we'll make sure that you get on the roster. If we have enough, we might end up doing them twice a month. So let's see if we can get that going. All right. And that's all. I want to thank everybody one last time. We'll be posting this. I think actually probably Ben might be posting it, but we'll be posting the recording later on, probably in a couple of days. And look out for that too, and amplify that for us.
So it's actually, I streamed this live. The YouTube recording is already up there.
Oh,
very nice. You streamed the VR or both?
The VR.
Okay, so we'll also post just the straight up Zoom recording, and the VR recordings already up there. Okay, so look out for that, and just amplify it for us when we put it out there. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, all. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thanks for having us.
Bye.
Take care.
All right, take care.